So I just got done watching episode 6 of season 3 of House of the Dragon, titled Faceless Men. And I have to admit, the first time I heard that title, I had a bit of PTSD just thinking about what happened with Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. But we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones, we're in fact here to talk about the latest episode of House of the Dragon. And as is customary with these recaps that I do after the episode, we're going to be touching upon the various details and happenings in the episode. So if you know you haven't seen the episode and you don't want to be spoiled on those details, then consider this your spoiler warning. So the episode opens in the Riverlands, with Criston Cole and the remaining soldiers still on the trail of the Rivermen army, when they happen upon one of their camps and discover a scene that didn't seem to make any sense, as all the men in the camp are already dead. But upon investigation, it turns out that this was a trap and an ambush, so even though Criston Cole and his men fought valiantly, they were eventually overwhelmed and he was killed by some archers. Damn! And like I said during my recap for the last episode, I am quite pleased with what they've done with the Criston Cole character, the journey he's been on, and his arc in general. So I was ultimately fine with what happened here. Even though he had died, it was quite poetic. The fact that he actually wanted to go out in glory and to remember in songs, and that he was killed in such a manner and deprived of that glory in his final hour. I felt this was a fitting ending for the character, and I'm quite pleased, like I said. Over at King's Landing, Alicent and Helena are found in the secret passages by guards. And later on, Rhaenyra confronts her for trying to escape, and Alicent tells her Helena was in fact pregnant. Rhaenyra then informs her that they will be confined to their rooms going forward and their guards doubled, even though Alicent was trying to plead for the sake of Helena, saying that she can't be confined in such a manner because of her delicate nature. But Rhaenyra at this point had been tested more than enough and she was quite firm with her order. During a small council meeting, Daemon informs Rhaenyra and the rest of the council members about the dead city watchmen. He tries to convince them to let him attack Lord Ormond and Daeron at Tumbleton with his dragon Caraxes, but they were wary of the collateral damage, not wanting to hurt any of the people, as Mysaria had already said that this would make her look like an evil queen. And Daemon wasn't happy with their reluctance, and they resolved to send assassins instead, even though Daemon clearly wanted his revenge for his men because he had known them personally, especially Sir Luthor. He really wanted that revenge and he was being deprived of it at this moment. Afterwards, a small group of soldiers arrived from House Baratheon to inform Rhaenyra that their Lord Boris, and his army was unable to answer her summons at the moment. And Rhaenyra took this as an insult, as she felt that they had prioritized other matters ahead of her own. But eventually she hatches a plan which was going to bear fruit later on in the episode, as we're going to see. Over at Tumbleton, Hugh and Ulf continue their watch as the army over there prepares for war. Ulf reminisces about the good old days before the war, and in a way he seemed quite unhappy with his current situation, saying that the fact that Rhaenyra had forbidden him from seeing his friends kind of defeats the purpose of wanting to have a dragon in the first place. And later on, we actually see Hugh making his way into the town when he sees his wife. His wife was surprisingly reluctant to go with him, refusing to follow him, and laments all the things that happened to her on her way to Tumbleton, that she had been assaulted on the way there, and even the fact that her brother was now dead. She basically didn't want anything to do with him and felt that his pursuit of knighthood was coming ahead of his need to take care of his family. Then we get a scene where Daemon meets with the remaining gold cloaks, trying to encourage them that they were going to get their vengeance for what had happened to the men that were killed. But the gold cloaks at this point were pretty much done. They had already decided to resign, fearing for their lives and their inability to provide for their families. So they hand over their cloaks and Daemon has to watch helplessly as each one departs. Then we get a scene between Alan and Lord Corlys, who was too busy rooting out the surviving Triarchy members from Westeros, and Alan informs him that Rhaenyra was in need of more men to watch over the city in the wake of Ormond Hightower's attacks on the Gold Cloaks. And Lord Corlys pretty much tells him that he was free to do as he pleases, but urges him to remember that Rhaenyra's need was endless, and he also informs him that there was news about Tywin Lannister surviving the Battle of the Gullet, and that he was rumored to be making his way to Rook's Rest. Then we get a scene between Tyland, Lord Larys, and Aegon as they bury the remains of the camp leader in some nearby woods. And Lord Larys informs Aegon that ships to Bravos were being secured, while Tyland still tries to urge them to consider going to Casterly Rock instead. But Aegon ultimately decides to stick with their original plan. Over at the Vale, we get a scene with Rhaena, who is still living in exile, when she spots the dragons, Moon Dancer, and Sea Smoke in the distance. And later on, we get a scene of her being brought to Lady Jane in front of the moon door for apparently failing to keep her end of the bargain by staying hidden, as she had indeed tried to make contact with her sister, Bela. Then we get another scene with Alan asking Bela to help him speak to Lord Corlys, fearing for the path that he was currently on and the fact that he was being overcome by the rage that he felt. But Bela tells him that she has her own burdens to bear, and the two of them proceed to start making out. This actually came out of nowhere, to be honest, because if there was any chemistry that was brewing, it would have seemed that it was between Bela and Adam. But it seems she has more interest in Alan. Or perhaps she wants to play both brothers, who knows at this point, but I have to say that this felt kind of fan servicey if I'm being honest. Then we get Gwaine finally arriving at Tumbleton to meet with Lord Ormond, and he was surprised to find out that Ormond still intended to continue fighting in the Civil War, and he demanded to know what his overall plans were. Then in a subsequent scene, Daeron confides in Gwaine, telling him how he was forced to go along with Ormond's plan of making him king and how he felt abandoned by Gwaine for going to fight in the war and leaving him alone with Ormond, who he is clearly afraid of. And Gwaine reveals that he had no desire to fight in the war and he intended to in fact go back to Old Town, being the second in line to be Lord. Then we get a scene where Helena confronts Alicent for deceiving her that her daughter was going to escape with them. And Alicent discovered that she had been knitting a tapestry showing Aemond from one of her visions. Then we hop over to Harrenhal, where Aemond is seen preparing to leave in search of Vhagar, having been able to finally regain some of his strength. But the witch Alice is able to convince him to stay by showing him the clutch of eggs and her ultimate desire to start a family with him and making Harrenhal their stronghold. So, and in this scene, we finally get to know what Alice's overall play was, and I have to say that this kind of came out of nowhere. The fact that she had this clutch of eggs all along and she didn't reveal it to Daemon all the time that it was there. But perhaps she sees something in Aemond that she feels she can manipulate more to her own whims and needs and desires, and it remains to be seen how all of this will play out, but I have to say that I'm still kind of on board and intrigued to see how it will go. Back at King's Landing, we have Rhaenyra sitting in the throne room as she listens to appeals from the people as they express their growing concerns amidst the war and the desertion of the remaining Gold Cloaks. And while she's sitting on the Iron Throne, she gets her finger cut by one of its many swords, which immediately calls back to what had happened with King Viserys and the illness that ultimately took his life. So I'm guessing this is them foreshadowing something that's going to happen to Rhaenyra as a result of having to sit the Iron Throne, or perhaps it's just a continued metaphor for how her position as queen and ruler comes with the price of blood. In any case, she becomes overwhelmed and distracted by the request, and she storms out of the room, leaving the petitioners behind. Then we get a scene where Daemon disguises himself as a gold cloak in a bid to lure out the assassin responsible for all the killings. And when he was able to get him, he interrogates him before killing him, but the assassin leaves him with an ominous message telling him that they were everywhere and they were constantly watching, and that there was no way they were ever going to accept Rhaenyra, a woman, as their queen and ruler. He then bumps into Ulf, who was supposed to be confined to the Red Keep, and he proceeds to discipline him in front of a crowd for not respecting Rhaenyra's orders. And it is clear that they're really laying the foundation for something with the Ulf character, as there's been multiple scenes like this showing him getting the short end of the stick, and I'm actually starting to suspect that he might end up betraying them at the end of the day. Then Rhaenyra's assassins arrive to meet with Ormond under the guise of Baratheon envoys, coming to pay respects to the new king. But Gwaine quickly suspects they are not who they claim to be, and the fight ensues and all the assassins are killed. And Ormond vows revenge upon Rhaenyra. Then we get another scene where Alicent meets with Rhaenyra, informing her about the whereabouts of Aemond in exchange for her and Helena's freedom. But instead, Rhaenyra tasks her with an impossible task, asking her to go back to Harrenhal to take him out herself, since she'll be able to let him get close enough and let his guard down. And I have to say that this is another part of the episode that actually feels like fan fiction, because I don't see any world where Alicent would actually agree to this. But as we see, the episode ends with Alicent departing for Harrenhal, as Rhaenyra receives a threatening message from Tumbleton, and Lord Corlys addresses his men, asking them to return to the city, only for him to be captured by Hightower forces. So looking at the episode as a whole, I have to say that it is really starting to feel a lot like fan fiction, because we are getting all these characters and making all these decisions that feel like they are beholden to the plots, rather than logical decisions that the characters will arrive at by themselves, like Rhaenyra asking Alicent to go and murder Aemond in Harrenhal. This just feels like something that would never happen in a million years. Then even the fact that Alicent was able to deduce where Aemond was just by looking at the tapestry that was being woven by Helena. All these things feel like plot contrivances in my opinion, and I'm actually starting to get concerned that the show might be leaning on these contrivances too much. But all that said, I still feel it was a solid episode overall, as we got a fitting final scene for Sir Criston, and of course all the other plot threads that are being woven and being uncovered as we speak. So yeah, I'm still on board. I'm looking forward to the final 2 episodes and hoping that they will be able to course correct a bit and stop relying on all these plot contrivances and return to the excellent writing that the show has come to be known for. Anyway, these are just my thoughts about episode 6 of season 3 of House of the Dragon. What did you think about the episode? Are you enjoying the direction everything is going thus far, or do you also feel like we're veering into the territory of fan fiction? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed watching this discussion, and to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more discussions like this in the future. And until the next one, this is Michael, signing off.